All right. Next, the main event between number 1 ranked Tyron Woodley and number 6 ranked Gilbert Burns. This fight is interesting because it's Tyron Woodley's first fight back since his loss to Kamaru Usman. And that was a fight in which, like, Woodley just looked flat. And I mean, part of that was just because of the pace that Kamaru was putting on him and how relentless it was, and just like his wrestling was so overwhelming. You know what I mean? And Woodley's a great wrestler himself. So that it's like, I think it was a combination of a little bit, like, but I think Woodley was a little flat in that fight. And I think that, like, Woodley will oftentimes, like, have a tendency to, like, he has so much power in his right hand. Like, he can always rely on it. And because of that, like, he's always got it corked. Like, he knows it. And he'll let guys push him backwards a little bit. But against a guy like Usman, who's just going to be looking to close that space on you and push you up and hold you up against the cage, like, a lot of guys aren't able to do that to Woodley, right? So I think that you just saw a stylistic flaw, like, in Woodley's game. Like, if you pressure him and if you can out wrestle him, I think you can outwork the guy. You know what I mean? Like, Usman kind of proved that. But when you're fighting guys like Darren Till and Stephen Thompson, who prefer open space and striking, he's so explosive, and his ability to cover that distance and land shots on you is, I mean, incredible. That's why he dropped both Darren Till and Stephen Thompson when he fought them, right? He's just got so much power in his right hand, and he covers massive amounts of distance with it, right? But he's fighting a little bit of a different guy in this one. He's fighting Gilbert Burns, who is a world champion jiu-jitsu player and who has knockout power in his own right. Knocked out Damian Maia, and then with a left hook, I believe. And then who did he – I got to look it up. I can't remember the guy's name. He knocked another guy out with a right hook. So it's like Gilbert Burns has, like, one-shot knockout power in his punches. Not that he's going to necessarily be able to connect that on Tyron Woodley like he did on a guy like Maia or who was it? Was it Dan Murray? I think it was Dan Murray. Maybe Jason saw it. I can't fucking remember which one it was. But my point is, this guy is, again, another world champion jiu-jitsu player on this card, but he has knockout power, man, and his striking, it's very technical and it's very efficient, and he has a great outside leg kick. And when you're fighting a guy like Tyron Woodley, who's going to be a wrestler, like I said, he puts a lot of power in his punches, especially when he's trying to come through with that right hand. If you beat up and he's a wrestler, so you beat up the lead leg of Tyron Woodley, and you are going to slow down, I think, a lot of the things that make Tyron Woodley a successful MMA fighter. The question is he going to be able to implement that? I don't think that Woodley is going to necessarily, like, be looking – I don't know, man. I don't think that Woodley's going to be afraid to go to the ground with Gilbert Burns if it's on his terms. Like, Woodley's a big, strong guy, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. And he's, like I said, he's got a powerful wrestling base. So if he's on top of you, I'm not saying it's a smart idea to just, like, go out and take Gilbert Burns down, because, like, Woodley does have good boxing and good power, right? But I don't think that Woodley's going to be afraid to go to the ground with Burns. Woodley's so fucking big and strong. And like I said, if he's on top, if he can get it there on his terms, I think he'll find success on top. Also, Gilbert Burns is, I think, going to struggle to take Tyron Woodley down. If so, Tyron Woodley he's incredibly explosive, and he has incredibly strong hips. If Gilbert Burns' timing isn't perfect, and even then, even if his, like, follow through isn't perfect, Woodley is going to be a really fucking hard guy to get to the ground for Burns, I think. Like, don't get me wrong, Burns has some nice takedown setups, and it's better than a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys you see who, like Damian Maia, his entire game plan is to get you to the ground, right? But his takedowns aren't exactly, like, explosive, and they can be predictable at times and stuff. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys struggle with that. I think Gilbert Burns has a nice, like, he has a nice shot and everything, but against a guy like Tyron Woodley, I don't think the takedowns are going to be there for him, and I don't think that Burns is going to be able to hold Woodley up against the cage. I think in those positions, Woodley's going to be winning those exchanges, you know what I mean? So I think that what Burns is going to have to do is beat up the lead leg of Woodley and just pick him apart and wear on him over time. if you wear on him, then the takedowns might come later on in the rounds after you've done some damage. And if you can get Woodley making some mistakes due to fatigue or just being, you know, losing the fight. But I just don't think that Gilbert Burns is going to be able to assert himself against Woodley, because Woodley has that power. And I think that when you're in there and you're standing across from him, it creates hesitation, because you know that when you come in there, you know there's always a possibility, like Darren Till when he came in and got dropped, right? Like, you know that when you move in on this guy, the consequences can be lethal. And I think that keeps guys off them, especially when they actually get in there with them. I think Tyron Woodley is going to win this fight and get back on track. I think that Gilbert Burns is a great competitor and perhaps a future title challenger. His jiu-jitsu, and he might prove me wrong in this fight, man, like I said, but I just think his game plan has to be a little bit more methodical. And you got on a strong guy like Woodley, like, I think he's going to have to pick him apart on the feet and then start maybe trying to engage in some grappling situations when he's the fresher fighter. But early on, I think that Woodley's going to have a massive advantage in terms of strength, and I don't think Burns will be able to get him down. I think you're going to see Woodley get a finish in this fight. I just don't know how or when. He's like, that right hand makes things so unpredictable, and it's just like, you also, like I said, you have to consider where's Woodley's head at after the last fight. What kind of fight is he going to fight? Is he going to be the one who wants to, like, assert himself because it happened to him last time? A lot of variables, right? But I think Woodley's going to find a way to get it done in this one and get back on track and kind of, you know, reassert himself as one of the best. Already is, undoubtedly, right? But he puts himself back in, like, title contention. He's got to go get a good win, especially after, like, how dominant the loss was to Kamaru Usman. So he's got to, this is a good one for him to get back on track and get his name back in the mix for actually fighting for the title again.